Graham Platner for Senate. He's a combat veteran, Marines and Army, okay? Friend of the working Mainer, foe of the oligarchy, husband, candidate for U.S. Senate. This guy is running for U.S. Senate, anti-Zionist, very progressive, has all of the progressive bona fides, okay? I'm going to look a little bit deeper into his campaign. I haven't like fully analyzed it, and I'm going to link up with him and do some with him as well. But from what I understand, the more Republican part of Maine is very working class, maybe trying to appeal to those people and not just folks with gelled up hair as a winner.
We live in a society in which we've been told a story that power is not for us. Power is not for the people. There is a different class, a different type of person whose job it is to wield power, to be a CEO, to be a politician. This is not true. This is false. Power exists for those who are willing to.
I've been hurt before, okay? I advocated for one ogre, and I need to really, really see what his background looks like, okay? But he's already being presented as Maine's own Zoran, all right? Let's just look at his campaign kickoff video, okay?
What I love most about Maine are the people. I have never met people who are more hard scrabble, even in a place that requires you to work like 2 or 3 different jobs. We have watched this state become essentially unlivable for working class people, and it makes me deeply angry. My name is Graham Platner, and I'm running for U.S. Senate in Maine to defeat Susan Collins. A decade of military service going overseas, farming oysters to feed my community, diving to lend a hand to other fishermen, trying to start a family. But everywhere I've gone, it seems like the fabric of what holds us together is being ripped apart by billionaires and corrupt politicians.
Yeah, progressive mind in a MAGA body. Progressive mind in an Aryan Brotherhood body. Look, I don't give a what someone's background is. You guys know this. I am agnostic to the optics. I do not care. You can be a 33-year-old brown Muslim dude who is a socialist. You can be the type of dude that looks like he's a tier 1 operator going on the Sean Ryan podcast to talk about how, you know, he was door kicking in Fallujah. All right. As long as what's coming out of your mouth and the values that you believe align with mine, I'm there for you. OK, it don't matter. America's an incredibly diverse country.
Profiting off of destroying our environment, driving our families into poverty, and crushing the middle class. I did 4 infantry tours in the Marine Corps and the Army. I'm not a...
I'll be honest, I don't really like how much you post that as well, but I guess that's for election stuff. You know me, I fucking hate the Democrats like that constantly go, this is the Amy McGrath method, you know? Democrats love a veteran, okay? They love a veteran. Okay. Having said that, there are left flank vets out there, and this guy seems to be one of them. Okay. There are also a lot of neo-lib Air Force veterans who love talking about like, I killed children. Okay. I did so many drone strikes. It was awesome. I'm a much more patriotic figure than my Republican opposition is. Okay. He doesn't even want to kill children overseas. I do. Like when Democrats run with that shit, and I'm so annoyed by it. He's not really doing that. I don't know how this will read to people in general, because he is like, he does look the part. He is very, you know, he is very grunt force. Listen, I totally understand why a lot of people see a swagged out white boy geared up looking like a grunt force tier 1 operator and immediately think of John Fetty Wapman. Okay. We've been burned before. And I understand it. Like I said, only time will tell. But as far as his platform goes, like, I mean, he's actively speaking out about this stuff too. Like, I mean, look, Graham Platner to Prem Tucker on Zateo said there's a genocide that is occurring in Gaza. And at some point in the not so distant future, we are all going to be looking around and realizing that we failed the ultimate moral test of our time. The reason why I'm saying like I'm warm to this person is not because like I'm a bro with progressive ideals. The reason why I'm warm to this guy is because of who he has surrounded himself with. Okay. His team, from what I have seen, is fairly solid.
To fight for the things you love. This is our home, and I will fight tirelessly for it. For you. It's Mainers first, and Maine always.
Yeah, okay. Here's a notable section from his policies, by the way. Stop the mass deportation machine. Pass real immigration reform. Rhetorically shows much more in common with pre-Bernie 2016 on immigration than a lot of the modern Democratic Party. Our government is kidnapping people off the streets and imprisoning them in hellish conditions. This is unconscionable. It is long past time for serious immigration reform. Unfortunately, many multinational corporations have no interest in this. They want illegal workers with no rights who they can pay slave wages and abuse at will. I will support a path to citizenship and an end to the mass deportation machine. We need strong border security and a path to citizenship. We cannot do one without the other. I don't love the we need a strong border security talk, but but again, match your expectations to what you see from the rest of the Democratic Party, and this guy stands out. It's good to be critical and make an assessment off of like everything that they're communicating, but ultimately, he's an ACP member. He's not. It's funny. Yeah, he's a part of the American Communist Party. I don't think so. Where I stand, Maine is becoming unaffordable for thousands of us. Why? Because we have a government by, of, and for billionaires who are building a billionaire economy that none of us can afford. I'm not just running against Susan Collins. I'm running against the billionaire class that owns her and all of Washington. Even if this is fake, okay? Even if this is like fake posturing, it's good that there is this kind of messaging coming out, okay? This is what every Democrat should be saying, including Pete Buttigieg. This should be the thing that Democrats are screaming from the mountaintops, okay? That is what they should be pushing all the time. We should not settle for politicians who speak in vague generalities about policy. Here's where I stand. Most importantly, I want to hear from you as this platform grows and develops. Overview. America's entered a new Gilded Age. We have a government of, by, and for billionaires. We have direct consequence of disastrous court decisions capped by Citizens United that have allowed billionaires to buy elections. As a result, they have built a billionaire economy, one that creates explosive growth for a tiny privileged few, for a handful of billionaires and multinational corporations, and inflation, stagnation, and decline for the rest of us. In 1990, there were 66 billionaires in America. Today, there are over 900. When you look around, do you see a community that is over 10 times wealthier than 1990? And so, while my platform spans many issues, I view most of my job as a U.S. Senator to do things. 1, to ban billionaires buying elections. 2, to dismantle the billionaire economy in favor of an economy that works for the American worker, for small businesses, for the vast majority of Americans. I will be a senator for all those who can't buy senators. So here's the thing. In order to put together a coherent political campaign, you need to talk about what you stand for. You need to talk about who you want to defend. And more importantly, perhaps, something that is very much missing from the Democratic Party's method of communication, you need to talk about who you despise and who you oppose. Targeting billionaires who are unimaginably powerful figures, but their numbers are minuscule, okay, in comparison to the 99% of Americans. You need to position yourself against villains. Democrats don't do that. They want to suck up to the billionaires, and so they look like they're phony. Ban billionaires buying elections, rebuild our failing healthcare system. Our system for profit health insurance is a disaster. We pay more than any other country in the developed world. Healthcare is a basic human right, not a privilege, not a perk, a right. As a veteran, I'm fortunate to receive quality care through the VA, but Americans should not have to put on a uniform or fight in misguided foreign wars just to get decent healthcare. Every single person in this country deserves good healthcare, no matter who you are. We have rural hospitals closing because of policy choices made by Republicans like Susan Collins. Like, I'll tell you something. Democrats especially, who are guided by fear of fucking up, oftentimes don't take strong positions that they are worried will not reflect positively. Like they're worried that like they'll say something that the media will take on and just like yell about. Israel's a great example of this. Some of them are indecent charlatans, and some of them do have this misguided fear that if they speak out against Israel, that they won't actually be rewarded by the population, by the broader population, which they will, 100,000%. But they are worried that like people will come and petition their speeches and things like that. They'll get suppressed by all of the different organs that are pro-Israel that have made themselves irreplaceable, seemingly, in the eyes of the DC bubble in American politics and in the American media system. Okay? I think a guy like this could just like very easily also take a strong anti-war position, given his background, to be like, I don't think we should be doing any of these wars at all. I think it's a jobs program, and it's utterly ridiculous how much we are destroying the next generation so that they can get a leg up. These systems, these social services should be provided unconditionally to every single person living on U.S. soil, and that on top of that, the military's focus as a jobs program should be on rebuilding this country and infrastructure projects rather than constantly waging war and destroying the global South. That is a position that a guy like this could take, okay? I don't know if that's something that he genuinely believes or not, but that's something that many people would be so afraid to say out loud because they're worried that people will go, oh, you're an anti-patriotic terrorist or whatever. It's not a problem to say these things, especially when you got Donald motherfucking Trump, who presents himself, who has the audacity to present himself as an anti-war guy. American foreign policy, by design in the media, it never takes the forefront of political messaging. It's not something that people care about when it comes to elections either, okay? This is the attitude that people have in D.C. That is by design, because if American foreign policy was at the forefront, people would recognize how violent America is, and people would start asking questions about, like, why are we giving hundreds of billions of dollars to all these other countries, or even waging wars overseas? Like, why the fuck are we doing that? And we're creating a lot of animosity against us around the world. For that reason, the media rarely ever talks about it or have a complete bipartisan stranglehold on permanent warfare, permanent military contracts, constant money going into the military industrial complex. But that has created this very weird position where America as a nation state relies on constant extraction of natural resources from the global south to exist in the ways that it does, to offer the limited amount of comforts that it does to the labor aristocracy, while simultaneously the average American believes that they're anti-war. Because if they were aware that this entire system is designed on permanent military conflict, they probably would have, they probably go on either side of this equation. Some would say, I'm being honest, I like that we're killing children overseas as long as I can get a t-shirt for $5. And others would say, I think this is unconscionable. We should actually focus on isolationism, whatever you want to do with that, that ideology. There are plenty of Americans right now, though, that feel like they're anti-war. They're anti-war. And yet no politician sincerely communicates this message because they're too afraid. They're too afraid that they'll be called a terrorist. They should do so. They should do that. I call it now, this white guy's not a real one. I know that everybody wants to be right. And I don't even fault you for being cynical, okay? I do not fault you for being cynical. Having said that, he has a lot of decent people around him. Here's Joe Calvello, who himself said, the Democratic Party is deeply unpopular, but national Democrats continue to take a it ain't broke, so don't fix it approach while we are in dire straits. Shane Goldmacher, new at New York Times, Democratic Party is facing a voter registration crisis in red, blue, and battleground states alike, losing ground to the GOP everywhere. My deep dive into the numbers and what it reveals about the party's brand. The Dems are unpopular. The Dems are seen as the pro-Israel, pro-war pussy party who won't actually fight back against the Republicans. They're losing their own base. They're not bringing in new people into the fold. It's a devastating outcome. Why do you think when in normal circumstances, the other party that is not in power is supposed to automatically get a popularity boost, especially when the party in charge, the Republican Party, is deeply unpopular and their policies are violent and people are actually resentful towards towards their policies? Why is the Democratic Party not getting that right now? Why is the Democratic Party not actually getting that popularity boost by just being the not Republican Party? It's because they're showing their bellies. They're cowering in fear, and people are angry. They're resentful, and they can see that the Democrats, the party out of power, is not doing shit about it. Do with that information what you will. Why still advocating for the Dems? Oh my God. Use the existing party machine to your advantage. You guys are so stupid. Do I need to spell it out for you? There is currently, as it stands, no viable third-party outcome, okay? There's just, it doesn't exist. So a person that would normally be a third-party candidate should still use the existing infrastructure. And then if they gain national prominence, maybe they'll start their own third-party initiative after they have that platform. But you can't do that right now. What the more do you want to hear from me? This is the weakest the Democrats have ever been. It's an opportunity for tremendous gains to be made to utilize the pre-existing structure, okay, and force the Democratic Party to actually be a progressive force, an actual real counterbalance against the Republican fascist movement. That's it. Look at Jeremy Corbyn. And if it doesn't work, then you can move on to a different alternative outcome. And I totally am not against it anyway. If you want, build out the Green Party to be an actual Green Party and not like some weird, possibly foreign influenced group of people that only show their face every 4 years to run around and say a bunch of silly shit and then also see increasingly limited success at a time when people are looking for alternatives. You know, I'm in a competition between Jill Stein and Kamala Harris on who spoke out less post-election. Okay, I don't know who wins that. I'm gonna be honest. It's like Twitter activity of Jill Stein, Twitter activity of Kamala Harris post-election. They're nowhere to be found. How did this happen? How did this happen? It's not even just Twitter activity, but just like in general. 30 states plus DC allow for partisan registration. Between 2020 and 2024, Democrats lost 2.1 million voters in those states, and the GOP gained 2.4 million. But those top line figures are just the start. Shane Goldmacher reports. By percentage, Democrats went from nearly an 11-point edge over GOP in 2020 to just a 6-point edge in 2024. Along the way, some states have flipped the GOP registration edge entirely. Florida, of course, but more big ones are likely coming. In Pennsylvania, the quintessential battleground, Democrats had a registration advantage of 517,000 among active voters in November 2020. As of the summer, only 53,303 voters. In North Carolina, Republicans have raised roughly 95% of the registration advantage that Democrats held in the fall of 2020 by this summer. The Dem edge is less than 17,000, down from nearly 400,000 in 2020. Some have dismissed registration as a lagging indicator in the past, but in 2024, it proved prescient. Democratic weakness was concentrated where Trump was strongest, among men and younger voters. There are few better measurements of a party's brand than who actively choose to identify and register with it. And fewer voters are choosing to become Democrats. Check out this graphic of the trend line for new registrants since 2018. Look at this graph, dude. Look at this graph. We also have some takeaways in the findings. This is perhaps the most stark one. Many voters are choosing to be political independents by not registering with either major party. But of the people who do choose between the two main parties, the Democratic share has been cratering, according to the analysts. Why? Because one party stands for something. It's evil, but at least they stand for something. The other party stands for nothing. They're still presented as evil, but they're also evil and feckless. You got to pick a lane, man. Okay, I am presenting an alternative, which is don't stand for evil and stand for good things instead. It's super simple message. Policy first, agenda first, things that will genuinely improve people's material conditions first and foremost. Become identifiable by tangible policies that actually genuinely improve people's material conditions. Become an earnest communicator of said policies, and people will reward you. This is how democracy is supposed to work in theory. I am losing my goddamn mind having to have this conversation over and over and over and over and over again every single election cycle, and then in the immediate aftermath of the election cycle, and continue to have this conversation for the past 12 years to an increasingly smaller group of people that are interested in this sort of thing within the power structure of the Democratic Party. And here we are, cratering support. It's an opportunity. It is an opportunity for a true progressive force to overtake and pull the Democrats in the right direction, whether they come along or not. Kicking and screaming, okay? Become undeniable, become unavoidable, become a force that people have to reckon with.